good morning. Welcome everybody to the Training, Learning, and Development community. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a member showcase happening, and I'm excited to introduce all of you to Judie Boroevich. And we've got a bunch of questions to ask Judie. I mean, we were just talking a little bit ago about a lot of things that aren't on my list of questions, and hopefully we'll go over some of that stuff too, because it's really, really interesting. But as you guys can see, I have like an ask a question list at the bottom of the screen. You can check that out. Add questions if you'd like. And before we get started, wanted to give some shout outs to some of the folks that are in our audience already. Kim is here, Christiana, Lisa, Perva. Hey, Danny, good to see you. Elizabeth, Alicia, Lane, Nazi, thanks for joining us. All right, so we've got about 30 minutes, and Judie, I am so glad that we finally got you on the schedule, and here you are, and we're going to talk. Now, the thing that impressed me the most about you, Judie, is just the fact that you've been in this space for over 20 years, right?
A long time.
Yeah, and so it's so interesting, just some of the things we were talking about right before we went live, just being in this space for that long. I think that there is a lot that people can learn from the grizzled veterans like you, but at the same time, we were talking about how it's so incredible looking at some of the young people that are coming into this space and how much they have to offer to L&D, and how we're learning so much from them, and reverse mentorship. I know that this isn't on the agenda, but can you just like go over what reverse mentorship is? It sounded like you sort of had, some experience with that.
Well, very informally, I have experience with reverse mentorship, and maybe before I dive in, I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about in preparation for this, I sort of calculated out, how many exact years I've been, because it's over 20, and I'm like, it's been 24 years. And it feels like in many ways it was yesterday I was starting out in learning and development, and things have changed so much. Like we were talking about when I started, it was all about, facilitation and instructor-led classes, and then the technology has come into the space. And so for me, it's really important to stay up to date. And I do find that reverse mentorship, whether it's formally pairing up somebody with a lot of experience to somebody that's newer in the field, is great. And I like the thought and idea of reverse mentorship where I can learn from someone younger, bringing a fresh perspective. They may know in some cases more about the tech than I do. So I think learning in our space, it goes both ways. There's a lot for us to learn from people starting out, and there's a lot for those of us who've been in the industry for some time to share. So I think we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, no, I love it, because I'm actually trying to find that balance within the training, learning, and development community, where I can get more younger people in, because I know that I have sort of my own, I guess, index of go-tos that I've been going to for years, as far as bringing them onto the broadcasts, or asking them questions about like topics and things. But whenever I'm on LinkedIn, or just on social media, and I see interesting things about learning, they're typically like posts by folks that are much younger than me, that have been in the industry for maybe like maybe less than 5 years, but are really coming up with some interesting ideas. So yeah, I'm working on that too. It's it was great that you brought that up this morning.
Well, and I would just add to that, there's such a fresh perspective. Like, I think we're seeing cultural shifts in organizations in part because of younger people coming into the workplace. And that's very exciting to me as well. And I think, L&D has a role to play in those cultural shifts too. So.
I love it. Yeah. All right. So let's start talking about you specifically, Judie. What kind of like projects are you working on right now?
Well, so first of all, I am the director of learning at a large law firm, and so we have 2,000 people right across Canada. We've got 5 offices across Canada, and I'm located in Vancouver. And so in the law firm, we have no shortage of work. I know it's true for most of us in L&D. There's all sorts of projects that are on the go, and there's currently 20 projects in flight that L&D is a part of. And so on our team, the way we approach those projects is I typically assign out each learning specialists to 2 to 3 projects, depending on the project size and scope. And we typically do a learning recommendation or approach for the project, and everything we do, we try to do blended. So we might have some instructor-led facilitation or virtual facilitation, videos, using tech as part of the learning. And one of the things that has shifted is we're not necessarily always the ones facilitating or creating the learning content any longer. So what we're doing a lot of these days is the subject matter experts might actually be the ones who create the content or actually do the facilitation, deliver the content. We
Mm-hmm.
play very much an advisory role. So we give them ideas on what they might want to include with the learning and the way that they might want to take it. The other thing that we're really involved with right now is operational work, and that would be like many people, I'm sure, on this attending this session, onboarding. We teach all of the new hires, and then ongoing skill development as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, so your SMEs, how are they producing content or creating content?
Well, that's a great question. So generally we work with them. And so as an example, if they were to do an instructor-led session, we would take them through a train the trainer. We'd give them some coaching on how to facilitate. Something that's worked really well for us is we have them deliver the content to a member of our team, and then they provide feedback and again, some coaching. We've actually put together some documents and some videos that teach our users how to record their own videos using all sorts of different technology, whether it's something as simple as PowerPoint, or maybe they use an application like this to record something for the end user. So we're really pushing these days social learning and getting our users to produce their own content.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really interesting. Geez. So what is it? What is your favorite part of your job right now?
I think my favorite part always is connecting with people. And so whether I'm actually facilitating a session, which I try to do on occasion, I don't do it as much any longer. Most of the learning specialists on my team are the primary facilitators now. But I love connecting with people when I'm teaching. And I also love managing the team and building the team. So I think it's working with people always.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting when I look at your profile on LinkedIn and sort of see your background, it feels like you're really into leadership development and building teams. And then there was really an emphasis on trust. And why is that? Like, why does that stand out for you?
Well, I mean, I believe as a leader that the most important thing you can have on a team is trust. And I have really seen in action that if there's trust on a team and all of the team members can truly trust one another, you can get things done so much more quickly. It really cuts down on any drama, on any people wondering, what's our purpose? What are we aiming toward? If people can trust each other.
Mhm.
So it's that's done in a number of ways, and I think it, from my perspective, for me, it means that I'm transparent with my team as much as possible, that I'm always sharing the vision and the strategy of where I want learning to go, but I'm also asking them to co-create that with me.
Mhm.
And it also means that I'm sharing with them as much as possible where the law firm is headed, where the business is headed.
Mhm.
Um, there's other things that we do that are real simple ways of building and maintaining trust. Like we use a trust agreement at the start. We have a weekly meeting, and so we've co-created together a trust agreement, and it's just a short list. I think maybe 10 tops of items that we visit at the start of every meeting, and it's things like, and I love this one: ask for what you need, um, ask questions. If we're questioning each other, it's not personal. So we set these ground rules so that we can feel comfortable asking questions with one another.
Nice. So was this an organizational shift or movement, or was this something that you individually came up with or saw barriers to trust and you wanted to overcome that? Or
Yeah,
um
well, It's a great question. I mean, I think when I moved into a leadership role for the learning team, uh, I think it started just with me wanting the people on the team to get to know each other even better.
Mhm.
And in my own journey with learning, I love to read and I love to attend webinars, and I particularly love to read about the leadership topic. And it
Mm.
sort of seemed like in everything I was reading and sessions that I was attending, all roads lead to trust. And so that's really for me where that conversation started. And then as I was including team members in those conversations on the learning team, it was something that I think what's so great about learning teams is generally we are all open to learning and open to
Mhm.
trying new things. And so the team just really embraced it, and off we went.
Right, right. Yeah, I think it's so important to me just because we have these digital landscapes that we're involved in, and just browsing the internet in general, social media, that trust is an issue, and I make it as much of a priority as I can for myself, even though it goes against a lot of what I've learned in the past, where you can just like, I don't know, I sort of came up building things saying, what is it, smoke and mirrors. You can actually make yourself look like a much larger organization than you actually are. You can pretend this and pretend that, but then after, when I initially started TLEC, I thought about, yeah, I can just make it seem like I'm part of a huge team, but that just did not feel authentic, and so I don't like carry that anymore. And there are all these levels to that where I'm really trying to bring that out, where I'm actually just a guy in a small office just trying to produce this stuff,
I,
you know.
I love that you said authenticity, because I think
Mhm.
that's at the heart of it as well, right? Like you
Mhm.
are who you are who you are, and
Right.
you bring that on authenticity to whatever team you're working with, wherever you go. And that helps develop trust when you're yourself, and you're not pretending to be something other than you are.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it also requires vulnerability, because I agree with you. It's kind of that old mindset of trying to pretend that you are something other than you are. And I'm not always confident. I struggle with confidence. I struggle with all sorts of things, and I think it's okay to talk about those struggles. And it's okay to be one person running a
Right.
company as you are on your own,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you love doing it and you're doing it for the right reasons, I think
yeah.
that that's what's important. Kim does have a question. She's asking, are your SMEs all lawyers? And so they
That's
would
a
be used to, yeah, for presenting and writing, etc.
Yeah, sometimes they are the lawyers. So sometimes they're the lawyers. We also engage our paralegals or our law clerks. Sometimes they're the legal assistants. And then we also have, human resources and marketing. And so sometimes they're from those groups. In fact, one of the projects that we're working on right now, we're going to be upgrading our client relationship management software, our CRM. And so we have specialists in that area who work within that software. They're part of our marketing team, and they'll be the SMEs for that, or the subject matter experts.
Wow. Wow.
But we
So
do call on the lawyers sometimes.
is there a particular project that you might want to talk about that you're especially proud of that you can share with us?
Well, yeah, I mean, just before COVID hit, we rolled out a huge project to the firm that the learning team was involved with. And at a law firm, we use all sorts of typical applications like, Outlook and Word, and then we use specialized applications as well. And one of them is a document management system. And you can imagine at the law firm how many documents we're producing, and the importance of people being able to find precedents and do research and such. So we rolled out a brand new document management system, which was a huge undertaking. And as part of the program, our team was going to be delivering, we did do face-to-face at that time, instructor-led learning, as well as we had all sorts of, videos and job aids and all sorts of other good pieces of learning. But we realized that with the rollout being so big and affecting so many people, it was going to be challenging for us when the tech actually hit, for us to be, maybe circulating the floors and answering questions, because many of us would still be, teaching the software to our firm members. So we produced a program that we called the Learning Ambassadors, and it was a social learning program. And for that, we actually had lawyers and law clerks, and we really had people from across the entire organization volunteer. We taught them the new technology about 6 months in advance, and we also gave them a train the trainer session. And we had ongoing regular meetings with them and really formed this learning ambassador community. And then when the tech launched, they actually went around and went to their colleagues and checked in with them multiple times throughout the day and just said, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Can I answer any questions? The program was really well received because people on the floor, even if they didn't have a question, they just loved that somebody was there in case they needed that help. Like they just loved the idea of it. And it was wonderful for the learning ambassadors because people were able to meet other people from across different offices and across different roles. So it was very successful for us, and I'm very proud of that program.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I mean, how many people in your organization?
We've got 2,000.
Wow. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. That's
Yeah.
quite the undertaking. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Love it. And I want to talk a little bit about that certificate in change management that you have that I saw on your thing, on your LinkedIn profile. So, we were talking a little bit about change and even just how we started the conversation talking about reverse mentoring, things like that. Has that change management certificate helped you at all with your role in L&D?
Absolutely. I maybe just to back up a little bit before I dive into the certificate. I read a book, I want to say 2017 or 2018, called Leading Change by John Cotter. And that's at the time I didn't know it's kind of the seminal book in change management. So I read it and I was like, I'm loving all of this. And so much of what formal change management is about ties into learning, because what I was reading in the book is, let's get people engaged, let's find champions, let's plan for sustainability so that, after something rolls out, whether it's a tech program or a leadership program, how do we keep people engaged and how do we keep that program going? So I sort of went online and Googled and tried to find a program in change management, and I found the one that I took at the University of British Columbia. And the other reason that I was interested in the program is in our organization at that time, we had a small, and it's since grown, change management team. And we were starting to work with them. And so it was just sort of like all these different roads were leading me to take this change management certificate. And I think that I would recommend for anybody in L&D, if you haven't explored change management, look into it. It's just got lots of great information that we can use in L&D and that we can consider with respect to everything that we do. And I think most people will probably find, like me, many of the aspects of it that, again, getting user engagement, thinking about long-term sustainability of learning programs, they're things that we naturally have been doing, but this just sets it out in a very formal way, and that was helpful for me.
Yeah, it just seems like, learning sparks change. It seems like it's something that should go hand in hand, and that I feel like I don't see that enough. And especially with, like in the past, over the last, say, 5 years or so, that I've worked with organizations that were going through, especially like digital transformation and having to focus on change management, it always seemed like L&D should be a part of those conversations. And so was this just an individual thing that you decided to do, or was this something assigned by your organization?
No, this was just something individual that I decided to do. And what you're speaking of, I think, is so true. Like in L&D, we want a seat at the table. We should have a seat at the table. We should be part of those conversations. And what I like about the change management process is it really lays out, how do you go about doing that? So how do you engage with stakeholders? Who should you be speaking to? How often should you be speaking to them? And I see with, in L&D, the learner experience, we want to be talking to our learners. And that's really what change management is about too, speaking to people, talking to them, getting them engaged, getting them to be champions for the change. So I think that the two are definitely linked.
Love it. Like Danny's saying in chat, managing change effectively can make a very positive impact on project success. Often change management is siloed or lost in the shuffle. And yeah,
So
I
true.
totally agree. All right, cool. Let me we're going to start asking you some questions that are probably a little bit more individual and about you. So let's see. What do you wish you had known when you started out on your career in L&D?
Oh, so much. There's so many
20,
things I
24 years ago.
I mean, if I could go back in time or if I could impart information to people starting out,
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing for me is just because somebody's confident doesn't necessarily mean that they are competent or that they know of what they speak. And I would tell myself that for two reasons. One would just be because I think sometimes when people speak very confidently, there's a tendency to sort of just trust, oh, they must know what they're talking about. And I think that at times I've silenced myself or I haven't spoken up because I thought, well, clearly this person knows what they're speaking of, and that's not always the case. Just because somebody's confident doesn't necessarily know. I might be able to use my voice and take part in the conversation as well. Um, and I think the other reason is I think in L&D, sometimes I've heard us described as order takers. So people come to us and they say, I need a, training program. I need it launched next week, and go off and do it. And they may say that very confidently, and yet we have expertise. And so just because they think training is required, it's up to us to ask lots of questions, because maybe the process just needs to be refined or tweaked a little bit. Maybe the tech isn't the right tech that we're using. So to me, it would be about, just because somebody's confident, don't necessarily think that they know everything. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right, right. Yeah, and that just takes experience of being able to be in those situations and understanding, um just how that works. That's great. Kim is saying, yes, that shocked me when I moved from healthcare to the business world. People who were more confident than was appropriate. Who were more
Ah,
confident was appropriate. Totally agree. Yeah, that's a great one. So what keeps you inspired right now? What keeps you going in this industry, in this space?
well, I think first and foremost, my team. They are amazing. And what I love about my team in particular is everyone has their expertise in L&D. They're very strong in that area and they love it. And then they also bring all sorts of other things to the team. So one of my team members is a gamer. She loves video games. And so she's always bringing that gamification conversation to everything we do. I've got somebody who writes fiction on the side. So she's always about, like, what's the story here? Like, how are we going to weave storytelling into what we're designing? So that keeps me inspired. Communities keep me inspired. So, TLDC, we've got law firm training specific communities, because I think we learn so much from each other, and I can't be an expert in everything L&D. And so, you've got experts you've spoken to about learning experience, and hearing from people in other industries, that keeps me inspired. And then I think too, disconnecting and listening to music. I love going for
Mhm,
runs. When I walk my dog, that's when ideas will pop into my head. uh, Things that have nothing to do with L&D. I
mhm,
love to
mhm.
read. That keeps me inspired. That's when I think sometimes when I am engaged in other activities, I'll think, oh, how could I use that in a training session? Like, how might I use music in a training session? How might I bring, something I've read, a quote that's inspired me? How do I take that back to learning or to
Wow,
my
that's
team?
great. Your team must love you. You just seem like you would be a fabulous director to be
Oh,
to
thank
work
you.
with.
Well, like I said, my team is phenomenal. I'm very lucky.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What are some ways that you've built sort of that trust piece into the way you work with your team? I know you touched on it a little bit, but is there anything specific that you can add?
I mean, I think you when you said authenticity, I think that's important, being authentic. And for me, that also means sometimes just sharing. Like, if I don't know either, I will I'll say that I'm not sure the best way to proceed either. What are your ideas? What are your thoughts? Um, and then something that we've done. Our team is spread out across Canada. So I've got team members in every single office, and we get together a couple times a week for a virtual coffee. And it's, at the start, as much as can be when you're all in different time zones, the start-ish of the day.
Mhm.
And that's nice too, because it just gives us that opportunity to connect. And then I also am a firm believer in one-on-one connections with the team. So I also will reach out to people, whether it's a phone call or we have ongoing individual meetings, and also just reaching out, through tech, like using text messages to just check in and see how people are doing.
Wow, that's great. So it seems like you just keep connected to everybody.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. I like
That's
that.
great. Excellent. So, best professional compliment you've ever received. Let's hear it.
Wow. Well, I would say for me, it's relationships maybe that I have with people who've maybe left the team. So, I've
Mm,
had people reach out to me and just say, they worked on the team. Maybe they went to another group within our company, or they went to another organization entirely, and they'll reach out and maybe ask for my input on something, or maybe they want a reference. I love that. Like, I love when people reach out. Even after they've left the team, to me that's a compliment, because it speaks to that relationship that we've been able to form. So to
wow,
me, that's the best compliment.
yeah, that's a really good indicator of, I think, of kind of, um, an individual's ability, like on the professional side of things, to nurture good relationships. That's a good one.
It's so
Um,
important.
yeah, yeah, totally. So your journey to L&D, say beyond the 24 years, what other kinds of jobs did you work prior to this?
Oh, that's it. I
I know you started this when you were 17, and so
totally.
right.
That's right. Um, I did retail. I worked retail, but yeah, I mean, once I did my undergrad degree, it was pretty much out of the gate.
Wow.
Yeah, it
I mean,
sort of
how did
actually.
you know? What got you to this point where you knew, like, that's what I want to do? I'd like to be a trainer, or
Well, I fell into it by accident. So,
mm,
I mean, the reality is, yeah, retail was what I did before L&D, but I also, so when I was doing my undergrad, I worked for a large accounting firm,
mhm,
and I worked there in the summers and at holiday, and I would just fill in wherever. So I might be on reception, I might be, in the mailroom, wherever I was needed. And so when I finished my bachelor's degree, they said, we'd love to keep you on. What interests you? And I was, you just kind of finish, and I'm like, well, maybe HR or marketing. And they said, oh, well, that's all nice, but we have a position in IT. Would you be interested? And I'm like, I know nothing about IT, but I think I'm a fast learner, so throw me in and let's see what happens. And that was the best decision I ever made, because um, at that time they were moving to Windows 95, and they were going to use an external company to do all of the training for everybody at the accounting firm. And they
mhm,
said, oh, well, you coordinate all of it. Like, none of us IT folks, we don't want to be part of that. You coordinate it, new person. And I got to know the account manager at the organization that was doing all of the training. I got to attend the sessions, and I saw people teaching how to use technology. So it was a full day course in how to use Word or
mhm.
PowerPoint or whatever. And I thought that looks like fun. And I said to the account manager, I think I'd like to, if you ever have an opening, I'd like to apply. And she said, oh, I'll get you an interview with our education manager. I think, this would be great for you. And, a couple weeks later, I left the accounting firm, and my first position in L&D was working for a vendor where every week was different. I would teach all day every day, and that was the perfect training ground for 5 years of that, and then I went in-house, and I've been at the law firm ever since.
Wow, that's great. That's great. That's
I didn't even
fantastic.
know it was a career opportunity.
Right. You just jumped in, started in there, Windows 95. That's really, really cool. That's great. Thanks for sharing that
Long
with
time
us.
ago.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up now. We've done our 30 minutes, but let me ask you this one thing. If there's one thing that people should know about you, what is it?
Oh wow. I would say that I'm a work in progress. I'm always looking to evolve and grow and become a better me. So yeah, who I am today. Hopefully, I'll continue and evolve and be a little bit different in 5 years. So that's me.
That's great. Great answer. Judy, it has been a delight to talk to you. Thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing with
thank
us
you.
today. Really
Thank
has
you
been a
so
pleasure.
much. It's been
Yeah.
wonderful.
So everybody, is it okay if Judy, if I paste your LinkedIn URL here in chat, and
Oh,
so people can
absolutely.
connect with you?
Please do. Yeah.
All right, so I got it there in chat. Everyone, connect with Judy. Judy, thanks for being part of the community. I really appreciate your participation, and it's been wonderful being able to talk to you today. Everybody, reach out if you need anything, and with that, enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks everybody, and
Bye,
we'll see you
everyone.
next time. Bye, everyone.